Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we have a really essential mission. We're dissecting a critical strategic move in the incredibly competitive world of cancer therapy. This is not just about a new drug approval, it's really about operational leverage and how that can completely rewrite the rules of market competition. We're diving into Roche's accelerated FDA approval for their new subcutaneous formulation of Lunsumio.
That's right, Lunsumio Velo. The drug itself is mosunetuzumab, and it's for adult patients with a specific kind of cancer, relapsed or refractory follicular lymphoma.
So these are patients where the disease has come back after at least 2 other treatments.
Exactly. And this approval, which was granted, just before Christmas 2025, it's really Roche's big answer to some intense pressure in the market.
The bispecific market.
The bispecific T-cell engager market, yeah. For you, the curious learner, the core takeaway is pretty simple. A tiny change in how the drug is delivered, going from the slow IV drip to a 1-minute shot, has created this monumental logistical advantage.
It's a formulation race.
It's a formulation race, and Roche just closed a major gap.
Okay, let's unpack this then. When a company changes a drug's formulation, the first big question is always, does it work the same? You can't sacrifice efficacy just for convenience. What's the headline clinical data tell us?
Well, the clinical trial, the G029781 trial, was designed to answer exactly that. The whole accelerated approval really hinged on proving something called pharmacokinetic non-inferiority.
Okay, that is a mouthful. Let's slow down there because that term can really trip people up.
It can, yeah.
Can you just simplify what that means in practical terms?
Sure. Think of it like this. You need to get the same amount of the drug to the right place in the body, and it needs to stay there long enough to do its job. The original IV was one way to do that. The new subcutaneous, or SC shot, is another. They just had to prove the new way wasn't worse than the old way.
So it's about concentration and exposure.
Exactly. They looked at 2 key endpoints.
Yeah.
Minimum concentration, called trough, and the total exposure over time, the AUC. They had to meet both.
And did they? Did the SC formulation meet those standards?
They didn't just meet them, they exceeded them. The trial confirmed non-inferiority. The geometric mean ratios for those PK endpoints. For trough, it was 1.39, and for AUC, it was 1.06.
And the cutoff was much lower than that.
Right, the predefined margin was just 0.8, so they cleared it easily. Mathematically, chemically, it's confirmed. The SC shot is just as good.
Okay, so that's the science that makes this whole pivot possible. Now, let's talk about the results for patients, the people facing this late-stage cancer. What kind of efficacy did they see?
The efficacy was highly robust. We saw an objective response rate of 75%. That means the tumor shrank significantly in 3/4 of patients in the SE group.
And complete response, where the cancer seems to disappear entirely.
That was the even more impressive number. The complete response rate was nearly 60%, 59% in one analysis. And here's where the durability comes in. The median duration of response was 22.4 months.
22 months, so almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
That's really substantial, especially for a disease that's defined by relapsing. For patients who've already failed 2 other therapies, getting a deep, long-lasting response is everything.
It is. Follicular lymphoma is a slow-moving it's a persistent cancer. So these durable responses are absolutely essential. But beyond the efficacy, the SC formulation actually delivered a surprise bonus.
Which was?
An improved safety profile.
That is genuinely surprising. Usually you hope to maintain safety. You don't really expect to improve it just by changing the delivery.
I know, but it did. T-cell engagers are incredibly powerful. I mean, they literally redirect your own immune cells to attack the cancer, but that can trigger a lot of inflammation.
Right. Cytokine release syndrome, or CRS, that's the big one.
That's the big one. And with this new SC formulation, the rate of high-grade adverse events, so grade 3 or 4, it dropped from 70% with the IV all the way down to about 49%.
Wow, that's a massive reduction.
It is. And the overall rate of CRS itself fell from over 44% in the IV group to just 30% in the SC group. And when it did happen, it was almost always low grade, and it resolved really fast, like in a median of 2 days.
That safety improvement is what really unlocks the operational efficiency, isn't it? This is where the story gets really interesting for the healthcare system.
Oh, absolutely. The change in administration time is transformative.
How transformative?
The initial 5E infusions for Lunsumio, especially during the step-up dosing, could take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours in a chair.
A whole afternoon.
Basically. The new Lunsumio Velo subcutaneous injection takes about 1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute. We're talking about going from half a workday in a clinic to less time than it takes to check your email.
And that's amplified by the fact that it's a fixed duration treatment.
That's a huge competitive differentiator, yes. This is a regimen that could be as short as 6 months. It gives patients and doctors a clear endpoint. You contrast that with other options where you just treat until the cancer gets worse.
Right. Treat to progression.
Exactly. Having that finish line is a huge deal for a patient's quality of life.
So let's look at the battlefield here. This approval is clearly a strategic move in that bispecific antibodies race. I mean, how much did the competitive landscape force Roche's hand on this?
Oh, completely. I mean, the evolution in this market is happening at lightning speed. Bispecifics are a monumental class of drugs. We're talking a market of almost $9 billion right now, projected to be, over $16 billion in the next decade?
And Roche was the pioneer in this exact space. They were first to market.
They were. They had the first FDA approval for a CD20 x CD3 T-cell engager, the IV Lunsumio. But then, just months later, they were completely blindsided.
By who?
A major competitor, Epkinly, from AbbVie and Genmab, it launched as a subcutaneous injection right out of the gate.
So Roche had the clinical first, but Epkinly immediately undercut them on convenience.
Immediately, they created this critical formulation gap. This Lunsumio Velo approval is Roche finally and decisively closing that gap and leveling the playing field.
So now we have two highly effective subcutaneous options. But they're different. Lunsumio is fixed duration, Epkinly is indefinite. Does Roche have a broader plan to press this new advantage?
Oh, absolutely. The goal isn't just to hold their ground in the relapse setting. The real goal is to move the whole standard of treatment forward.
Into earlier lines of therapy.
Exactly, where the patient populations are much larger. The convenience of a 1-minute shot makes it so much easier to test in combination with other drugs.
Can you give some examples? Where are they testing this now?
Sure. In the Semilo study, they're pairing it with Polivy for second-line lymphoma. And crucially, in the Morning Light study, they're combining it with lenalidomide for first-line follicular lymphoma, patients who have never been treated before.
Which would be a huge expansion.
Huge. And that 1-minute shot makes those complex combination regimens much more practical for patients. It's just less of a burden.
Is Roche just going all in on bispecifics, or is this part of a bigger strategy?
It's a highly integrated strategy. They have other bispecifics, like Columvi, but they're also building a complementary pipeline. They just made that big $1.5 billion acquisition of Poseda Therapeutics.
For their CAR-T candidates, right?
Exactly, for off-the-shelf CAR-T. So management sees their bispecifics and their future CAR-T pipeline as synergistic. They want to be able to treat these B-cell cancers from every possible angle.
So let's move from the clinic to the financials. How does this operational shift, this massive efficiency gain, translate into the real world for Roche and for the healthcare system?
This is where you see that exponential gain really drive adoption.
Yeah.
The systemic benefits of subcutaneous drugs are, they're well documented. Research shows they're preferred by patients and, just as importantly, by healthcare professionals.
I can imagine.
I mean, cutting a treatment session from 4 hours to 1 minute isn't just a nice story. It literally increases the capacity of infusion centers.
Yeah.
It means faster patient throughput and real direct cost savings for the system.
And let's talk about the logistics of that. A big part of this is moving a complex therapy like this out of the big academic hospitals and into community practices.
That's where the real market penetration happens. And you're right, that shift is huge. The Morning Sun study basically gave us the playbook for how to do this safely. It confirmed that the SC formulation makes administration in community settings possible.
Which opens up access for so many more patients.
Exactly. Many of those smaller community sites, they just don't have the staff or infrastructure to handle these complex, hours-long 5E infusions. A 1-minute shot changes that entire equation.
So they were able to essentially bootstrap a high-level bispecific program. What were the key requirements to do it safely? Because the risks, even if they're lower, are still there.
The protocols were really rigorous. It wasn't just, here's a new shot. There was mandatory continuous staff education on managing CRS and another side effect called ICANS, which is a neurotoxicity.
So it's about training.
Training and structure. Sites had to have a physician champion, basically a local expert overseeing the program. They also had to set up proactive agreements with nearby hospitals.
For what?
To get rapid access to rescue medications like tocilizumab, which treats severe CRS. So you need that logistical backbone in place before you even start.
And what about the patients themselves? What were they asked to do during those first few high-risk doses?
Patient self-monitoring was critical. They were given thermometers, told to track their temperature closely, and crucially, they had to stay close to the clinic during that initial step-up dosing phase.
How close?
Usually within a 45-minute to 1-hour drive, just to make sure they could get back quickly if any symptoms started. The fact that community clinics can successfully implement these protocols is the key. That's what unlocks the commercial potential.
So it sounds like the combination of proven non-inferiority and this just vastly superior convenience is setting Roche up to not just catch up, but to actually set a new standard.
That's the takeaway. They're using this efficiency to supercharge their clinical programs in earlier lines of therapy. This isn't just about matching a competitor. It's a strategic repositioning that should drive real long-term growth. It's making the therapy faster, safer, and just more scalable.
All right, time now for our segment. This is not financial advice segment, the SC Advantage trade.
Okay, so this trade is a direct bet on operational leverage. Pure and simple. We've established the time savings. 4 hours down to 1 minute. In a community oncology clinic, infusion chair time is gold. It's often the single biggest constraint, the biggest cost driver.
So freeing up a chair isn't just a small win.
It's a massive win. The SSC formulation doesn't just make patients more comfortable, it dramatically increases the number of patients a clinic can treat in a day. That is a high-margin business for everyone involved.
The thesis, then, is that the market hasn't fully priced in how quickly this logistical advantage will translate into market share.
Precisely. The trade idea is to go long on Roche common stock, or a related option, based on the idea that the market has profoundly undervalued this operational efficiency. Ease of use isn't some side benefit. In oncology, it's a primary driver of prescriptions.
It dictates referral patterns.
It dictates everything. We think this will lead to faster than expected adoption, especially against competitors that require indefinite treatment or against older, clunky IV regimens. The stock should see an upwards revision based not just on the clinical data, but on this logistical delta. The future value is in the chair hours saved.
So we're betting on efficiency. We're betting on throughput winning the market race. That's a fascinating angle.
It's betting on the syringe over the IV pole. It's watching operational leverage become market capitalization.
To wrap this all up, the FDA's approval of Lunsumio Velo SC confirms the clinical power of a cutting-edge drug while completely revolutionizing convenience and efficiency. The critical question, I think, for you to mull over is this. How quickly can a simple logistical improvement like taking treatment time from hours down to a single minute fundamentally shift competitive advantage and drive growth in a high-stakes industry like oncology?
It really forces you to reconsider where the true value is. Is it just in the brilliant molecule itself? Or does the practical, scalable delivery mechanism hold the ultimate key to dominating the market? In this space, convenience is now king.
Something to think about as this bispecific war really starts to heat up. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.